Hey guys, it's Graham. Welcome to Truckerman Reads. I've gone through probably half the comics that I picked up yesterday, and without planning to, I ended up reading three comics in a row with Spider-Man. And by the time I was done, I was like, all right, I'm reading too much Spider-Man. I need to pull a few of these off of my list. And so I went into my subs and I canceled Spider-Man and Wolverine and Spider-Man Noir. Reason being this. So, one thing that annoys me as somebody who generally engages with the public is that, obviously, with how much I read about history, I'm going to know a fair amount that, like, the average person just isn't interested in or just doesn't care about. But it seems like, broadly speaking, the only two things that most people know about American history are slavery and World War II. And like we've been around for, I mean, just speaking since the Declaration, 249 years and change. There's been a lot going on, and there's a lot of cool stuff to draw from. Like we could do better than that, but it's like those are the only two things that really come up in popular entertainment. I need to rewrite and publish my. I wrote this one story that was kind of a time travel romp, but not really. But it was set against the Spanish-American War. We could do more than just slavery in World War II. There was some movie that came out a couple of years ago. It might have been like a Jordan Peele movie or something, and it was called Antebellum, and it had something to do with like black people from the present getting suddenly teleported to slave times or whatever. And all the comments on the trailer was black people being like, "Can we stop doing slavery movies?" Like, frick. Anyway, I digress. The three titles that I read, like I said, Spider-Man and Wolverine, Spider-Man Noir, and then that Marvel 1776 comic. This one was like a very strong first issue, really cool idea. And I get the feeling that if it's just going to be a mini series, like a 5 or 6 issue run, that they launched it now so that the trade paperback will be out next summer in time for like a big marketing push for the Declaration of Independence, like for Independence Day, because next year is the 250th. So timing wise, it's smart. The premise is that Morgan Le Fay is traveling through time and she's going to mess with the American Revolution and let the Brits win. And so Doctor Strange needs to hold open a portal for the Avengers to go back to 1776 and thwart her. Before this happens, the Avengers have a discussion, and so it's Iron Man, Cap, Hulk, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange, and they're saying, hey, we need to do this. And at first, Bruce is like, is it really necessary? I mean, like, would it be so bad if Britain won the American Revolution? And I was like, oh crap, here we go. Gonna get my jingo hackles raised up. Somebody's gonna have an anti-American take in a Marvel comic. Okay, well, let's see where it goes. And Spider-Man's like, well, yeah, I mean, wouldn't slavery end sooner if the Brits won? Because I was like, oh, great, here it comes. Because England did get rid of slavery in the 1830s, whereas in America it didn't happen until the Civil War 30 years later. And Captain America immediately stands up. He's like, you shut up, you little panty waste. Like, how dare you say we shouldn't have America? Like, obviously, it was more tactical than that. But there was actually a robust discussion, so much as you can have in a 30-some-odd page book, laden with ads, once again. But they're like, okay, should we do this or should we not? And Bruce Banner was actually like, I'm a scientist. We need to consider as many variables as we can. And they have an analytical and practical discussion about it. And then from there, there's like, okay, well, now that we've covered our bases, we know that we need to go back in time, and we got to stop this from happening. They realize that it's not so much about like, oh, we've got to save America. Like, obviously, that's the end goal. The reason being for Morgan Le Fay doing this is that if she defeats America, if she defeats the Continental Army, then America will kind of devolve into 10 or 12 smaller countries that are constantly jockeying with each other like the nations of Europe. But more importantly, the Avengers will never form later on. And she needs them to not form so that she can get up to her shenanigans in the present. It's like, okay, cool. There's the idea. It's not just about like, hey, let's have a time travel romp through 1776 for no reason. Like, there's an Avengers idea in this Avengers or Marvel story. Cool. And then they go back and, I won't spoil how issue 1 ends, but like the idea was strong and it was stress tested and like they worked through it. Spider-Man was just like, oh, should we, maybe we should let him loose because of slavery. It's like, there's the slavery thing. No, like that one wasn't bad. Spider-Man and Wolverine, I took that one off because at first when I added it to my file in the summertime, I thought that it was just like a mini series, a 6-issue run. And as far as volume 1 goes, there was a cool story, beginning, middle, end, a development, a challenge, and the art was just beautiful. And then I saw it continuing. Oh, it was issue 7. I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll see where it goes from here. The art continues to be good. The story in this one now is that they're fighting some other guy who is going through the multiverse, and he's killed like a whole bunch of multiverse versions of Spider-Man and Wolverine. And it's like, okay, I don't get into multiverse stories. I just don't enjoy them. So carry on. This is not a denunciation of it, but I like the ones that I've got. I'll stick with those. Spider-Man Noir, that's, I remember the Nick Cage version of Spider-Man from the Into the Spider-Verse movie from several years ago. Spider-Man Noir like already existed before that movie. Obviously, that's what they drew on to put him in there. But they're doing a mini run in the comic here because Amazon's doing a Spider-Man Noir series sometime in the near future, and Nick Cage is coming back to voice or act that character. I'm not sure if it's live action or whatever. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll check this out. Good detective piece, good period piece. Issue 1 was strong, and then in issue 2, it got really obnoxious with the whole like, oh no, this is 1939, and did you guys know that there are Nazis? And you guys know that the Nazis are having a rally in Madison Square Garden on September 20th of 1939, and you know that the Nazis hate immigrants and they're racist. And here's something nobody's ever told you before. Did you guys know that racism is bad? And Spider-Man, as a noir detective, breaks into this super hateful Nazi rally, and he's like swinging around spread eagle while he's fighting these guys, and has this like 2-page argument about like, it's so stupid what you guys are doing, and people like me because I'm Spider-Man, and immigrants are good. And it's like, oh my gosh. I can't help but think that this whole thing, like this particular story beat, kicked off because a year ago, when the presidential election was still going on, like Trump had a rally in Madison Square Garden, and the super serious historical journalists pulled back like the only 2 things that they know from history, which are slavery and World War II. And they're like, oh, well, did you guys know that there was a Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden 80 years ago? And this was just like that because Trump Nazi, whatever. Like the only song they know. And that made the news cycle. That, and like Tony Hinchcliffe told a joke about Puerto Rico being crap. And that was enough to like just piss off everybody for a week, and then they forgot about it. And then somebody got this assignment to write an historical Spider-Man alternate comic, whatever, and it's like, hey, let's throw this in there. I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's I found it obnoxious, and as cool as the artwork was, that particular little aside was like Spider-Man stopping and looking at the viewer, metaphorically speaking, at the reader, and being like, hey guys, Nazis are bad. It's like, no, we understand. Like you've been playing this tune for like a decade, and like it's okay to, I don't know, maybe find something else to explore in this aesthetic. So I pulled Spider-Man Noir off of there. I've just got the 2 issues, and I'll add it to my box of series that I started, but I'm not going to continue on with. Again, like artwork was beautiful, aesthetic is really cool. I'm probably still going to check out the show when it drops. But ultimately, my conclusion this week was that I'm reading a little bit too much Spider-Man. I can back off like 66% of the Spider-Man and just get Peter Parker going back in time with Steve Rogers to 1776 to make sure that the Brits don't win the American Revolution. There are a couple of other stories out there with this same idea that the Brits could possibly win the American Revolution, and that would lead to bad things. And I don't know, maybe you should read those novels. Maybe you should read Engines of Liberty, written and illustrated by Graham Bradley. I don't know. Check the description for affiliate links so I can double dip when you buy them and read them. Drive safe, see you out there.